Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to my channel. I pray that you're all in the best of health and iman. If you are new, welcome. My name is Nafisa. I am a certified relationship and trauma informed coach. I help women to heal after toxic relationships. So if you're interested in being coached in those areas, you can find me over on my website, which I will leave linked in the description box down below. You can also find me on Patreon, where I coach women on building their feminine side so that they can attract the man of their dreams. I also help wives over there as well in terms of building their feminine sides so that their relationships can thrive. So if you want more info on that, definitely check out the description box down below. Leaving a toxic partner, wife or husband can be one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do. And for couples who come to my practice, I make it clear that I am not someone who advocates jumping for divorce. Divorce is the last, very, very last option of all of the options that you may have. And that is just what I stand by, and that is what I follow, because that is what Islam guides us to. Marriage is a very serious commitment, and that is why I teach a lot of single girls to think twice before they leap, so that they can avoid certain situations so they don't find themselves in places where they have to end up in divorce. And also why I encourage wives to find ways to live in harmony with their husbands, because that is what we're supposed to be doing as Muslims. We are supposed to be trying to protect this sacred connection that is called marriage. And so when it comes to a point where you're feeling like, I don't think I can do this no more, and you're wondering what are the steps that I need to take towards ending this marriage, I hope this video will be helpful towards answering some of those questions for you. But one of the first things I will encourage you to consider is couples counseling. I really, really encourage you to try that. Now, I know that a lot of men are not into these couples counseling stuff. They're just like, I don't want anybody involved in my issue. I'm not going. But I think if a man wants his relationship to work, even if he doesn't like the counseling thing, he would be open to considering it. But what you want to do, as a Muslim especially, is make sure that you are going to stand before Allah. And when you stand before Allah on the day when He asks you about what happened in your marriage and about how your marriage ended, you want to be able to say, I exhausted all of my options, Ya Allah, before it had to reach the separation. So that is a means that you can utilize to see if your marriage can be saved, to see if there are any more strategies that you can apply, to see if there's anything else that the both of you can do that can help to move this marriage forward. So that is the first thing that I will say that you should utilize first, is attempt couple counseling. My next point may be number one for you depending on your situation, and that is getting yourself to a place of safety. If by toxic we are meaning that this person is so intensely emotionally manipulative or physically abusive, then you need to get yourself to safety first. So this might mean moving to your parents' house for the next couple of weeks until you figure things out, or just to ensure that yourself and the children are safe whilst you figure things out. Again, I don't advocate for partners always leaving to go to their parents' place every time that there's a problem in a marriage. I actually think that is one of the surefire ways to head onto the road of divorce, is if every time something happens, you run out of your marital home. Your home is your home. No matter what happens, you come back in, except for when your safety is at stake, right? If your safety is at risk, or the safety of your children, your first number one priority is to ensure that that safety is in place. And if you need to leave that family home for now, you need to leave for now. It doesn't mean you're divorcing your husband. It may just mean you physically moving out of the house so that safety can be established. So if you're suffering from any physical abuse, maybe that is something you need to utilize first until you can put in other things in place so that you can ensure your safety before you even think about returning, because we're not playing here with our safety. Okay, so ensure you are safe physically first. Next tip would be to help towards the emotional safety, and that is getting your wali involved, especially for the women here. Women who are in marriages with abusive men, you need to have your wali involved. You cannot keep this secret forever. It is not helping you by you keeping the secret forever. The man has zero respect for you because he knows you have nobody to stand up for you. And upon this note, I want to say this to the Muslim men out there. Take responsibility for the women in your life. Fear Allah and take responsibility for the women in your life. It may have been your sister, maybe she did something to you a while ago, you didn't like it. Doesn't matter. She is your sister. She is a woman under your protection. You as an older brother, you are responsible for her. All the uncles out there who like to act like their nieces are nobody to them, who like, oh yeah, that's my sister's daughter. I don't know what's going on in her life. I don't care. It is your responsibility as a Muslim man to make sure that every woman who is under you is protected and is safe. And if you have your sister, your nieces, any woman under you, under your protection, your stepdaughters under your protection, your daughters under your protection, you cannot sit there, watch her exist in an abusive situation and not involve yourself. That would not be protective of you. It is the role of the Muslim man that he should be protective of the women under him. This is not what I'm saying. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran. So us applying Islam, this is what it looks like in real life. And this helps you as a man to really be able to stand as a man. Oftentimes what makes a man is not that he has all the money in the world, because he may just not be a rich person. But when it comes to integrity and when it comes to protecting his family, you cannot contest it. You cannot contest it. Men, you need to step up in protecting the women under you. You offering that means that when a woman who is in your family is endangered in any way, shape or form, she knows that she can rely on you to do your part as her wali. Do your part as her wali. And so sisters, if you have your wali, approach them. Let them know what is going on with you. There's only so long you can keep it quiet. Again, I'm not advocating for every time there's a problem, you run to your wali and you go run your mouth. One of the best marriage advice that I got from my uncle, may Allah bless and protect him. He's always been there for me since my search for a husband. One of the best advice I got from him when I got married was, he said to me, Nafisa, if anything is happening that is overwhelming for you, I'm here, come to me. He didn't tell me to run to him every time I had a problem. He didn't tell me if your husband does something wrong, come to me. No. He said, if it becomes overwhelming for you, come to me. And I understood exactly what he meant. It meant if it's something I can't handle, if it's out of my hands, if I've tried everything I can't, he's there, he's present. And literally that phrase alone gave me so much peace of mind to know that I have somebody who actually cares for me and my well-being. He calls us, he checks upon our family, never any issue, alhamdulillah. But me just knowing that his protection is there for me in that way means so much. So please, sisters, do not be afraid if it becomes overwhelming to consult your wali. Because when a man is toxic, this isn't just a man with a bad habit, right? This isn't just every now and again, he does something I don't like. No, we're talking about toxic men. We're talking about a toxic, possibly a toxic woman. With somebody like that, you need to get whoever it is that is responsible for them after you. You need to get that person involved. So if that looks like getting her mother involved after you tried everything and nothing's worked, then you need to. You should not always just have a problem and check out, because people will eventually blame you for being the one who left. If you don't utilize the means that I'm telling you here and you just packed your bags and you're like, we're getting a divorce, I'm divorcing you. No, sis, you're still going to get blamed even if you're right. So it is wise to utilize all of these options before you get to that point. Number 3, istihara. I don't know how you're planning to divorce somebody without consulting Allah, because you may be making the biggest mistake of your life. The biggest mistake of your life, whether this is for the woman who's watching or for the man who is watching. If you plan on divorcing your spouse, you want to make consistent istihara and you want to give things time to see how things would end up. to see the outcomes of things. And whilst we're making istihara, we're utilizing our means. We're tying our camels through some of the other ways that I've mentioned here in this video to see if this is a situation that can improve. Is this person just going through a difficult period of time in life? Are they a little bit clouded by some of the things that's happening? Or is this just a toxic person and I really do need to check out? For you to know what is going to be best for your deen and your dunya, you need to make sure that you are consulting Allah and you are asking Allah for His guidance. Now, you will ask Allah for His guidance, but Allah will not make the decision for you. You will have to get to a point where you make some decisions. Because people sit there in toxic marriages for 10 years making istihara every day and then wondering why nothing is changing. You tie your camel and then you put your trust in Allah. You have to make some decisions and then you have to own the decision that you're making. If you're choosing to stay in the marriage and you know the person is toxic, you cannot blame Allah for not getting you out. That's not how the order of things work in this world. There's an order to how things work, right? If I want to eat, I have to go to the kitchen, right? I have to prepare the food before I can eat. I can't just sit there, be like, Allah, I want food, and expect food is just going to drop into my mouth. So we have to put in our own side of the work, okay? But istihara is absolutely necessary. And if you've made a decision to divorce your spouse without istihara, I feel sorry for you. You not wise, not wise. Next, you want to make sure you're gathering your data. You are gathering your receipts. Because if you just check out of a marriage without any evidence of what's happened, again, you are going to get the blame. You're going to get the blame. So you at least want to have some evidence. If it's, emotional abuse or whatever, you want to be keeping the evidence, because really, if you're not to blame and you're just trying to keep yourself get yourself back to safety, then you have to be able to prove that this person is actually abusive. It's not what you're thinking is happening, it's what's there, right? So gathering receipts, and I don't want to give examples of how to gather receipts here on social media because I don't know who's watching this, right? And everybody's situation is different. But with the women that I coach, if I hear their personal situation, then I can give advice about how to gather receipts before they even think about leaping. Because sometimes in gathering evidence, women may suddenly realize that I actually don't have any evidence. It's all just in my head, right? And that it's just my fear of what I think is happening, but I have no proof. You don't get a divorce for what you think is happening. If your intuition is telling you it's happening, trust me, sooner or later, the person will get exposed and you will have your evidence. But until then, I would advise you to don't overreact, okay? Until you have your evidence. Next, I will say start creating your plan B, okay? Because if somebody is toxic, chances are you're not going to be comfortable there for the rest of your life. And if you really want to tell yourself the truth, you know that the days of this marriage is numbered unless something changes. And if you know the man you're with is never going to change, if they've already told you, I'm not changing, this is who I am, take it or leave it, you need to start making your plan B, whatever that looks like for you. You need to start making that plan B, because you know staying in this marriage is not going to be the one for the rest of your life. It's a tough decision to be made, and I support women through that through my coaching. But this is something that you will have to, a point you have to get to, because refusing to is actually making a decision to stay. And so if you make the decision to stay, then you just have to commit to the fact that you've decided to stay. Last but most certainly not least, after you've exhausted all of the things that I've said here, nothing is changing, the abuse is getting worse, sis, it's time to go. It's time to go. Sometimes it's better off for a couple to be divorced than for them to be together, because your life matters, your mental health matters. I know women who have been so messed up by bad relationships that sometimes it can literally trigger them into another level of psychosis. I'm not kidding you. It just, something just shifts in that mental capacity, and that's it, we've lost the person. I do not want you keeping yourself in situations where you're suffering like this and thinking that this is just, I'm meant to suffer like this is my test. Sis, you have a choice. You have a choice. We are not part of a religion who thinks that divorce is not allowed. God forbid that you should divorce. Like, we get married and we die together no matter what. No, that's not what Islam says. Islam says In some cases, if you've exhausted everything, you've tried your best, if it doesn't work, you are allowed to amicably separate. Okay? Because that will be better for you. But that is only after you have tried everything that you possibly can. So I really hope this video has been very, very beneficial for the ladies watching and for the men watching as well, because oftentimes men are stuck with toxic women. In which case, us women, really, we need to sort ourselves out. Because why? Why would you want to be a means of evil towards somebody else? If you don't want to be with him, you don't love him, let him go in peace. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please make sure you give the video a thumbs up, and I will speak to you in my next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.